I'm Captain Hoff, CEO of Founderspace, the leading global startup accelerator. I'm also author of the award-winning books, Make Elephants Fly, Surviving a Startup, and The 5 Forces. Startup minds. How do great entrepreneurs think? What defines an entrepreneur that can go out there, begin just with an idea, and grow it into a huge business in a very short amount of time? This is what I'm going to talk about. I'm going to draw upon my personal experience, having worked with hundreds of entrepreneurs all over the world, as well as the knowledge I gained running 3 of my own venture-funded startups. I'm going to discuss the qualities of great entrepreneurship and the things you need to know to build a breakthrough business. Unicorn thinking. The first question you need to ask yourself is this idea I have a unicorn? And I will tell you, almost certainly it is not. Either the idea is wrong and it won't work at all, or maybe it turns out to be a small idea, or maybe a medium-sized idea. But unicorns are billion-dollar businesses. These are big ideas. They have a huge impact. That means your company has to grow from what it is now extremely rapidly in order to ever reach that goal. So, you are beginning your startup. You need to have a unicorn mindset. Now, what does that mean? What does it mean to think like a unicorn? It means that you have to be flexible because it is a journey. Doing a startup is not a matter of, oh, I'm sitting around, a stroke of genius. I had this idea. It's going to change the world. And you go off and do that. You read about this in magazines, but more often than not, it's not actually true. Whoever's telling you that story is telling you a story. Most of the great ideas, and I will tell you this because I work with lots of entrepreneurs and I see it myself. Most of the great ideas, the unicorns, are actually born not through one brilliant flash of inspiration, but they are born through a process of iteration. People are going out into the market, experimenting, trying different things, seeing the results, see what people react to. That is the type of journey you are embarking on. You are embarking not on a quick journey where overnight you'll be rich, unless you're incredibly, incredibly lucky. You are embarking on an odyssey, a long adventure, and you will have many failures and many obstacles you will have to overcome, and you will probably change your idea many times before you hit on that magical idea that suddenly springs into life and begins growing at an enormous pace and becomes that unicorn you dreamed of. Dare greatly. If you are going to go out there and find that unicorn, that magic billion-dollar idea, you cannot stick with what you know. You have to go beyond your comfort zone, into a new area, and that means daring greatly. Remember, it's risk versus reward. If you are not able to take a big risk, you will not get to the point where you will get those oversized rewards. Building unicorns, building multi-billion-dollar startups typically requires that you go into a market that is unexplored, that people haven't already figured out. If they've already figured out, somebody dominates that market. It's too competitive. You're never going to break through. You need uncharted territory. And whenever you're going into uncharted territory, when you're trying things that nobody has ever tried before, that entails risk. It entails a lot of risk. So I tell entrepreneurs, look, don't be afraid to dare greatly. Don't be afraid to jump off that cliff into unknown waters and see where you land. Look at Elon Musk. He's a prototype for the dare greatly. He keeps pushing himself beyond and beyond. He said he was going to start an electric car company when everybody told him it was impossible. You know, there had been no new car company that was successful in the United States for over 40 years. And here he was launching a car company. And to boot, it was an electric car company and there was no infrastructure. It was totally new technology. And him, a little company, was going to compete with General Motors and Ford and all these big companies around the world, Toyota and Mercedes. It seemed impossible. And then at the same time, he thinks, humanity should be going into space. He launches SpaceX, a whole nother company with another huge, impossible mission to take humanity to Mars. This is what I mean. You don't have to go to that extreme, but you really have to have that mindset. Great entrepreneurs aren't afraid. They don't hold back. They don't say, well, that's too big a risk. I'm sorry, I'm not going to do it. In fact, they say the opposite. They say, if I can see that there's technology that can get us there, I am not only willing to take the risk, I will lead the way. I will lead the market there. And that's what venture capital is for. It's to help you dare greatly and do the impossible. Go deep. It's not enough to take a big risk. It's not enough to have a great idea. You really need to go beyond where everybody else in the industry has gone. This means that you have to go deep. You have to think more deeply and know more about your product, your industry, what your customer wants than other people. In reality, most people out there, they think about their business, but they always stop at a certain point. And that point is usually where everybody else stops. It's a point where you feel like you know it all. You accept conventional wisdom. You look around you and say, oh, this has been true in the past, so it's true in the future. But really great entrepreneurs, they don't stop there. They keep learning. They keep pushing. They keep trying stuff. They go further and further and further. If you're in an industry, I don't care what it is, you need to know everything about it. You need to understand all the details of your industry, even more than people who've been in it forever. But you need to look at it from a fresh perspective. You need to look at it through new eyes. This is why most entrepreneurs, they haven't been in the business. They haven't been entrenched. They haven't been doing that business for 20 years. Because if you do, you start to blind yourself. You don't even try things that that a new person would try because you don't know a lot. So it's a combination of ignorance, of not knowing and not accepting the way things were done. But at the same time, going deep, figuring out what is it about your industry that isn't being served. How could you do things in a way that nobody's doing them? How could you offer more value to your customer than anybody is offering right now? And what new technologies can you bring to bear to totally change your industry? Keep learning. Go deep. Study everything your competitors do. Read everything about your industry. Being obsessed about your industry. Pushing and pushing and pushing. Gathering knowledge from every possible sort. And then arranging it in new ways and looking for where's an opportunity? Where is there an opportunity to make a connection between two things? Maybe even in unrelated industries that would actually transform what you're doing in your business. That's what I mean by go deep. Build your team. The first thing you should do when you start your company is focus on building your team. You would be surprised, but a lot of entrepreneurs I meet don't do this. They actually think they need an idea, so they spend all their time trying to think of an idea. And once they get an idea they believe is good, then they just start working on it. They start building it. They hire contractors to help them build it, but they don't get together their core team. This is a huge mistake. I will tell you, the more work you do before you pull in your core co-founders, the people who are going to build the company with you, the harder it is to actually bring in those co-founders. Why is that? Well, first of all, once you start to make progress on something alone, solo, working on it, maybe you're hiring people now and then to help you, some programmers in India or wherever to get things done, but you're not building your core management team. The further along you get and the more money you invest, the less likely you are going to be able to attract other people. Why? Well, number one is you're building something and they're not involved. It's not their idea. It's all yours. And when people are co-founders, they want it to be their idea too. They want to share in that. They want to share in the process of developing it. And they also want a decent share of equity. The further you go on your own, the harder it is for you to justify giving them equity that would be enough to get them to come on board as co-founders. And what you need to do a startup more than anything is really talented co-founders. These are co-founders who could have been working for Google or Microsoft or IBM or any big company out there. They could have gotten a great salary, but they're sacrificing that to come work for you for really no money, just a share of this company, which at the time isn't worth anything because you're just beginning. So don't do this. I've seen co-founders who've been working on it for a year alone, and then they try to pull in other team members. It becomes virtually impossible. They don't want to give them much equity. They already have their idea set. They don't want to change it. The other team members want to feel a part of it. They don't feel a part of it. They're not getting enough shares to make it worth them leaving their good paying job or sacrificing other opportunities, so they don't join. If you are going to build a startup, it is easiest to pull the team members you need at the very beginning, when you are first starting out, before you do any work. Honestly, get the team members you get at the beginning will have a bigger impact on whether you succeed or fail than your idea, than the amount of money you raise, than anything else. Because the idea is usually wrong. You usually have to go through many iterations on the idea. So whatever you start with, it probably isn't right anyway. The money usually doesn't come until you have a team. Like, I won't invest in a solo founder most of the time. I want to see a real team there. I want to see that this person could be a leader. That is my test of the entrepreneur. Can you bring in great team members when you have no money? If you can't do this, if you can't get other people to join you at the beginning when you have no money, then you probably aren't a great leader. You might not even be a good leader. And I want a great leader. If you're going to build a billion-dollar organization, one person alone isn't going to do it. You need to surround yourself constantly with the best talent possible. That's the first proof point. That's what you should be doing. Also, when you bring team members in early, when they're involved in the process, when it's their idea, they're much less likely to leave because they're investing in it. They're investing their time, their energy, their emotions. They become as attached to the project as you do. So I always tell entrepreneurs, don't go off and start to raise money. Don't even try to build a product. And definitely don't even start with an idea. Before you do anything, find the people you want to work with. Now, you may know roughly what you want to do, like in the area you want to work. That's fine. But you don't have to narrow it down. Leave it open. Bring in the team members. Your team members start together figuring this out, changing, trying experiments. Remember, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's your idea or their idea or all of your idea. All that matters is it works. It either works or it doesn't. Now, when finding team members, one thing you can do to ensure that everybody sticks with the company, and if they don't stick with the company, they don't walk away early with a lot of shares, is that you give everybody gets founder shares in the company, but you make these founder shares vest over time, typically a 4-year period. That means if one of the co-founders leaves before the 4 years are up, the company has the right to buy back the unvested shares. This is really important. It mitigates the risk. You don't want to give away a lot of your company and then have people just walk out the door a month, 2 months, 6 months later with a huge chunk of equity. It can really be damaging to your long-term business prospects. So don't do that. Set it up in advance with shares vesting over time. Now, you can also put a cliff into place. A cliff means that no shares will vest until you reach a certain point. So you could have a 3-month cliff, a 6-month cliff, a 1-year cliff. It depends on how you work it out, but you should all accept together what this should be. Bring your co-founders in, discuss it with them, say, look, if any of us leaves before 6 months, we're going to put a cliff in there at 6 months. That person doesn't get shares because they left too early. They didn't really commit to the company. And we need a trial period to see if we can all work together. And I want to be able to go on with this if it doesn't work. So put this down in writing at the beginning. Sometimes get a lawyer to work it all out. It's very simple, and then you'll be in good shape. And for the number one rule is before you do anything else, your job is to build a team. Honestly, Team building is the hardest part. If you can get the right team, it doesn't matter if you have the right idea. You'll figure it out together. You'll change directions many times. If you get the wrong team, your company is almost always doomed to fail. So make it your number one job to build that team from day one. What makes a super CEO? I get asked this question a lot. What makes an excellent CEO, especially when doing a startup? What qualities do you need to have when launching a business to really break through? Well, I will tell you, I work with a lot of entrepreneurs, and there are 3 qualities I always look for. The first one is curiosity. Is the entrepreneur curious? Are they asking a lot of questions? What do they think? How do they see the world? Do they see it from a unique perspective? Are they willing to break orthodoxy? When they're in a situation, if they're in a business, they're asking, why are people doing it this way? Couldn't they do it this way? What about this technology? Has anybody tried this? These type of hungry minds that are always absorbing information, always reading, always learning, hungry to try things different, curious people. That is the number one quality I look for. If you're curious, I can be pretty sure you're going to come across, at some point, stumble across some insight, and you're going to go deep on that and figure it out in a way that nobody else has before. Number 2, just as essential, leadership. You have to be able to lead. Being a CEO is different. You can be other roles in the company, but if you're going to be the CEO, the number one thing you need to do is lead. Leadership first means bringing in the great people, building that team. But there's a lot more to leadership. The next thing you need to do, bring in customers. Get the customers. You need to go out, sell them, get them to believe in what you're doing. Then you need to bring in investment, get the venture capital. Then you bring in the press, get the media focused. Great CEOs have this leadership ability to attract, to bring resources into their company, to grow their company, to set a vision, to get people to follow them, to take chances when otherwise they wouldn't do it. They would not want to take, most people don't want to take big chances. They want a sure thing. They would rather stick with what they know. But a great leader can take these crazy ideas and actually get everybody to follow them into the unknown, into uncharted territory. Even if it turns out to be a disaster, they keep leading, they keep trying, and ultimately the leadership will determine whether the company succeeds or fails. The third one is also a core trait. It's also essential. You need all 3 of these to be really a great entrepreneur. The third one is stamina, resilience, the ability to confront hardship and have it knock you down, have it, really, shatter all hope, but then you get up again and you just keep going. You look at the entrepreneurs. There are entrepreneurs out there and they have lots of trouble. They're always running into trouble. I will tell you, every single one of my startups, there's been a nightmare situation, a situation you think you can never get out of. The really true entrepreneurs always never give up. They just keep fighting until the very end. It doesn't mean you always succeed. It doesn't mean everything you try will work. Most of the stuff won't. A lot of times you'll have to totally pivot. Sometimes you will have companies that go bankrupt. Look at Jack Ma, the founder of Alibaba. His first companies didn't work out. Bill Gates, his first company didn't work out. Steve Jobs had plenty of failures. That isn't the point. The point is that they kept going. They didn't sit around and let that failure define them. They had stamina. They had resilience. They've done studies and they found that the people in life who are most successful are the ones who have this ability to bounce back. So if you don't have it, you're probably not going to get through it. Even if you're super curious, even if you're a great leader, you're going to hit hardship at some time. And that's the time you need resilience. So those are the 3 qualities that I see making a super CEO. Keep it secret. Should you keep your precious idea secret? Should you tell nobody? Because they may steal your idea and run with it and beat you to market. This is a fear of a lot of entrepreneurs. I had this fear when I launched my companies. A lot of entrepreneurs come to me and say, Steve, should I show people my idea? You know what I tell them? You have to show people your idea. You cannot keep it secret. Honestly, I'm not telling you to go out there and go in front of a room full of competitors at a conference and announce your new idea, your new brilliant idea, so all of them can copy you. Do not do that. But you also, on the other extreme, should not keep the idea all to yourself. The reason is because your precious idea, the idea you think is so great, might not even work. And if it works, it probably only works part way. You probably only part way figured it out. You have to take that idea into the real world. And the only way to do that is to expose it to people. You have to bring it out and show it to potential customers. Get their feedback. Have them start engaging with it. Whether it's an early prototype, whether it's an alpha or beta version, whether it's just a PowerPoint, you need to get in front of these customers and figure out if they need your idea, if they're willing to pay for it, if this is something that will make a difference in their lives. If it's not, you're probably on the wrong path and you need to change. And the sooner you change, the better. I will tell you, far more companies, like 10 to 1, die because they simply are on the wrong path. They don't even know it, but their idea is no good, rather than companies where some competitor steals their idea. Very rarely does a competitor kill you. If you have the right idea, you have the right team, you're moving fast, it's hard for people to compete with you. You can go and execute on that idea even when people are trying to steal it. And trust me, in the real world, the first time your article, your product gets any press, any media, it's out there. It's out there in the real world. Everybody who wants to see it can see it. And anybody who wants to copy you can copy you. So that's inevitable. People will see your idea and people will copy your idea. But the most important thing is that you figure out the details of that idea. Not the big picture, but the really nitty-gritty details. That's what defines whether a product really works in the marketplace or whether it doesn't. Whether there's demand or whether there isn't. And more often than not, when you're beginning, if you keep your idea all to yourself, at the beginning, you won't know and you won't be able to progress. Now, being an entrepreneur is about coming up with an idea and taking it into the world as soon as possible. Getting feedback, gathering data, talking to investors. If you're afraid to talk to investors, you won't raise money, right? You're afraid they may copy you or give your idea to another company? Well, they may, but the chance is small compared to you not getting money if you don't talk to them at all, and them giving their money to somebody else who ends up beating you because they have all the funding and resources which you don't. So no matter what you do, you have to take your idea into the real world. It's better to do this in an orchestrated fashion. Honestly, you don't want to, when you go to an investor, you don't want to go to an investor who's already invested in a competitor. So look at their portfolio. Ask them. I do this before I meet with an investor. I say, I tell them briefly what I do without revealing any of our real secrets. And then I say, have you invested in a competing company? If they say yes, I don't meet with them. If they say no, I double check their portfolio. Seems true, I go meet with them. I take the risk. You have to take it. You have to meet with customers. Could one of them walk off and make your idea? Yes, but this is an inherent risk of doing business. It's part of the process. Please don't hold yourself back. Do not keep your idea secret. I've seen so many startups in my lifetime that have kept their ideas to themselves and nothing ever happens. They end up spinning their wheels in their own little bubble, their own little world. They never get out there and they never get a product that's really usable, really valuable. Trust me, there are a gazillion ideas in the world. There are so many ideas, but getting something to work, figuring out how to actually make it work and build it and get the resources to launch it, that's the hard part of being an entrepreneur. And to do that, you must go out there with your idea. You must expose it. Money won't save you. I live in Silicon Valley. I work here. I invest here. I meet entrepreneurs all the time that are coming here. And a lot of them believe the money is the end game. When they get that money, when they close their Series A round or whatever round they're after, it will solve all their problems. Trust me, it doesn't. I've been there. I know. That's when your problems begin, is when you get the money. It's not when they end. When you're launching a company, it's very easy to buy into the myth that all you need for you to be wildly successful is to get a top-tier VC firm to get in with you, to give you the money, to give you the connections, to give you everything else, and then it will take care of itself. Well, money never solves the core problems of a business. Never. There are so many examples I've seen that companies that received not just millions of dollars, but tens of millions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars, and they went nowhere because they hadn't really figured it out. Before you get the money, you need to figure out your business. Now, let me give you an example. There was a company called Fab. You probably don't know them, but they were really popular for a short amount of time. FAB.com, Fab. This company had these flash sales, and it seemed like they were doing incredibly well. They were growing at an enormous rate. They actually wound up raising $400 million. $400 million. And they were just booming. You're reading about them, you're like, this is amazing. This company's going to be huge. They were a unicorn already. They're going all the way. Then you find out that the company totally imploded because those customers that they were acquiring weren't sticking. What they had wasn't working. But because they were able to keep raising money and raising more money and raising more money, they were able to mask the problem. A lot of businesses run into this problem. They think, oh, if I just raise more money, I'll be able to fix the problem. Actually, it gets you on a treadmill. You get addicted to the money. You get addicted to burning money, and it doesn't fix the problems. The problems are fundamental to your business. In fact, like I said, the money can allow you to live with these problems when you shouldn't be. They shouldn't have been growing that fast. They hadn't had a product market fit. Customers weren't sticking with their product, but instead of addressing that problem, they just kept raising more money. This has happened over and over again. There have been startups that I know, like Color, that raised 80 million out of the box, but their first idea, which they hadn't actually brought to market, when they brought it to market, it wasn't successful. People didn't care about their app. They just didn't care. So they had all this money and they kept iterating, but they really ended up coming up with nothing brilliant. There was no big hit there. When you are out there, remember, venture capital isn't good at helping solve problems. It really doesn't solve any problems. Venture capital is only good at one thing, and that's accelerating growth. When a company has figured out what they're doing, when they've actually have that product market fit, that thing that really works, venture capital is excellent at helping them scale. Basically saying, okay, I can see that it works. I can see that in the future you will be very profitable because you can acquire a customer for this much, but in the customer's lifetime, which could be many years, they will be worth much, much more to you. And that will allow you to become a huge company. I will advance you the money and allow you to acquire a lot of customers really rapidly and grow like crazy to meet their needs. That is what venture capital does. Venture capital coming into a business that's broken, that isn't working, all they do is compound the problems. They're giving you money. As soon as a VC gives you money, they want you to grow because that's what they're used to. That's what their model is predicated on. They're not predicated on you doing another experiment, figuring something out, they're there to help you grow. So what they do is they end up pushing you to growth, acquire customers, grow, get another round, grow. Keep this cycle going. But the cycle, you can grow. It just makes you go faster in the direction you're already going faster. If it's not the right direction, you end up going off a cliff at some point. We see this happen all the time. You saw it happen with the bicycle sharing companies. They in China especially, these companies like Ofo grew so fast with, so much money. Bikes were everywhere, but the business model didn't work. So what you end up with is, dead bikes on all these street corners, just sitting there, dumped in piles. It's crazy. This is where the funding gets ahead of the business. So as an entrepreneur, you don't want too much money. You want just enough money at the beginning to experiment, to work on your idea, to try different things at a slower pace, to figure out what customers really need. Don't raise a lot of capital, even if you're offered it. It won't help you. In fact, like I said, it's going to push you in the wrong direction. They're going to force you to lock down. You're going to start hiring people and start going. What you need to do is keep your team small, keep experimenting, trying different things, and only when you're 100% sure that, wow, I've figured something out nobody else has. This is great. It's a money-making machine. That's when you pull on the venture spigots and start filling up your company with cash and growing. Break the rules. When you're entering a market, you're at a disadvantage. You're a small startup. you don't have a lot of resources, you're usually up against bigger players who have been in the market a while, and those big companies are playing by the rules. A lot of them have written the rules. They grew up and the rules favor them. So if you're entering a new market, you don't want to play by their rules. You want different rules. You want to break their rules. Let me give you an example. Uber, when it came into the market for transportation, there were already taxi companies in these markets. They usually were licensed by the city. A lot of them had to spend a lot of money to buy these very expensive licenses called medallions in order to operate. Now, these companies, these taxi companies, they were all playing by the same rules. Uber comes in and they say, look, if we had to buy a medallion, which can cost $100,000, $200,000, it depends on the city, a lot of money for every one of our drivers, our business model would never work. We would never be able to compete with these existing taxi companies. It's just impossible. So what they said is, we're not a taxi company. We aren't you. We're just an app. We're just connecting people who want to pick up customers, people who have a car and want to drive, with people who need a ride. That's what we are. We're an information technology company. By redefining the playing field, they broke all the rules. Now, in some companies like South Korea, they got banned because they were breaking the rules. But the model, if they hadn't broke the rules, honestly, if they didn't go into this gray area, this area that was undefined, that nobody had charted before, they wouldn't have been the Uber we see today. They would have failed. They would have failed very quickly early on. Only by breaking the taxi rules were they able to enter the market with a new, much lower cost, much more convenient service than any of their existing competitors were offering. Airbnb is another perfect example of breaking the rules. When Airbnb entered the market, they didn't say we're a hotel chain. They didn't say we're actually setting up bed and breakfasts in places, because if they would have said that, they would have had to play by all the rules. They would have had to get fire permits, zoning permits, they would have had all these city and government restrictions that they would have had to follow. It would have been a nightmare, and they could not have scaled their business like they did. So Airbnb said, no, we're not a hospitality company. We're not running a hotel or a bed and breakfast. What we are is we're actually just an information technology company connecting people who have space in their home with people who would like to stay with them. That's all we're doing. This allowed them to get into the market, grow really fast by entering this gray area where the rules weren't written because they redefined it. They totally rewrote the rules and broke whatever existing rules there were. And then they grew quickly. Later, many cities started to impose regulations, but then it was almost too late. There's some place where Airbnb is totally restricted, but in most markets, they operate pretty much as they always have. Maybe they have to play by certain rules. People can only rent their places for so many days, but by now it doesn't matter. They're the dominant player. They're the dominant player, and they're still growing fast. This is one of the keys to entering a market. As an entrepreneur, what I want you to do is write down a list of all the rules your competitors play by, everything. Think about it, you and your team. Then go through each rule and ask, what if we broke this? What if we just ignored this rule? What if we did it differently? Now, of course, you can get in trouble. You could get your company shut down. But more and more governments, especially if you're in the information technology area, you're doing something new with technology, they will give you leeway because they don't want to stifle innovation. So you have this chance to operate in the gray zone before legislation catches up with you. This is what Uber did and Airbnb did. They grew fast enough so that by the time they had to fight the rules, they were big enough. And they had the resources, they had the lawyers, they had everything else, that it didn't stop them. In your market, what rules can you break? And if you don't just break a rule for no reason, only break the rule if it gives you a significant competitive advantage, if it allows you to do something they aren't doing. And don't break rules which are clearly criminal. You don't want to be against the law. You only want to break the rules that are sort of undefined in this gray area, where you could argue one way or another that what you're doing is perfectly fine. That is a great strategy for growing your business. Focus on one thing. As an entrepreneur, You have to remember, when you're beginning, you don't have unlimited resources. You don't have unlimited time. Everything is scarce, and you have to make the best use of what you have right now. Now, a lot of entrepreneurs I see make a fundamental mistake, and I used to make this mistake. I thought that if I do a lot of things, if I'm trying this project and this project and this project and this project and putting a little work into any of these 5 things, that if just one of them succeeds, I am successful. What I didn't realize is that this was flawed logic, because more often than not, if you're trying a whole bunch of things at once, all of them will fail. The reason they fail is because in order for you to succeed, you need to push through. You need to puncture and break through a wall of competition. And you aren't going to do that by just pushing a little. You'll come up against that wall and stop. That's what companies do. But when you put all your effort, all your thought, all your energy, every penny you have behind one thing, you are able to push that thing farther and as far as it can go and really understand if it has potential. The successful entrepreneurs that I see in the world, they don't start 5 things at once. What they really do is pick one thing, the one thing they believe has the biggest chance for success. They put all their resources behind it. They go all in. This is all they're thinking about day and night. Everything is focused on that. And they push and push and push. And if it breaks through, great, they're on their way. If it doesn't break through, they kill it and they try another thing. So they focus on one thing, and then if it doesn't break through, they try another thing. If it doesn't break through, they try another thing until they push through. This focus, putting all your energy, concentrating, is absolutely essential to becoming the type of startup that will become a unicorn, the type of startup that will gain the momentum, the insight, rally the resources to actually make it where you want to go. Remember, focus on one thing and your chance of success is much higher than dispersing your energy across a whole lot of different projects. Your customer's mind. One of the surest ways to be successful in business is to get inside your customer's head, to know what your customer is thinking and feeling. The closer you can get to penetrating the mind of your customer, the more chance you have to build a product or service that they really love and really need. I will tell you, I work with entrepreneurs. I watch them as they go through the process of innovating, of trying to figure out what to do. Too many of these entrepreneurs isolate themselves. They're in their own little bubble. They're making their product, they're doing it, they have their own ideas, they're talking to each other, but they aren't going out and really understanding who their customer is and how they view the world. The most successful entrepreneurs that I know, either they are building products because they are the customer, right? They know because they need this product for themselves. So they build it at their work or whatever it is. They have discovered that if I had this product, it would totally change the way I do my job or totally change my life. If that is the case, then you're already inside the mind of your customer. If you're building it for you to use, if you are the end user, then it's perfect fit. And that's why so many entrepreneurs actually come up with their ideas by building products that they need. But there are a lot of cases where you aren't the customer, where you're entering a market and you haven't been in their shoes. You haven't done the job of the customer. In this case, it is really beneficial if you can stop doing what you're doing, stop thinking about what the customer may need, but actually go out and experience what the customer is experiencing. Plant yourself in their office. Ask if you're making a product for doctors to make them more efficient, ask if you can go around with a friend of yours who's a doctor for a week or a month and see what they do every day. See the headaches they have, see the problems they have, see what they're encountering. Talk to them, have lunch with them. You're spending day in and day out with them, trying to figure out what they really need, what would really make their life easier, what would really make them more efficient. The only way to know is to get inside their mind, to actually experience what they're experiencing with them. If you're building a product for restaurants, why don't you go work for a restaurant? Instead of just building the product, get in there. Start doing the job, figuring it out. What do cooks have to go through? What does the restaurant manager has to go through? What do busboys go through? How does everything operate? How is the food procured? All of the issues they have with customers, everything else. If you can start to experience this and look at their world through their eyes, then you will start to get ideas you would have never had. And there may be things you were thinking of building, things you thought they needed, which suddenly it opens up to you. They didn't need these. That was just in my head. I would have wasted a huge amount of time building something that they don't even care about. But now that I'm in their heads, I know exactly what will totally transform their lives for the better. Get inside your customer's mind. Your chance of success will go up dramatically. Good versus great. There are a lot of products out there. I don't care who you are going to face competition. And at the end of the day, if you are making a good product, even a really good product, you are probably going to fail. The reason why? Because somebody out there is going to make a great product. And customers, they always choose the great one. Why wouldn't they? Why would you settle for good or even really good when you could have great? Think of the apps on your phone. Think of how many apps there are in the App Store. Hundreds of thousands of apps. I mean, who knows how many apps there are? But usually you download an app to your phone, you look at it, oh, that's pretty good. You start using it. Yeah, pretty good. A week later, delete, the app is gone. You didn't care. You only care about the great ones, the ones that really provide value to you, the ones that are better than the competition. And honestly, word travels fast. If you're using something, you usually heard it from somebody else. You read about it in some article. People are herd animals. We all go to the very best one. When search engines began, there were close to 20 search engines, 20 major ones, not even the minor ones. But how many are there today? And how many do we even care about? There's really only Google. Google is the great one, right? That is the one, it wiped everybody else out there because it was significantly better. All the good search engines, and there were plenty of them, we don't even know their names anymore. Do you remember InfoSeek? Most people don't. But there were a lot of these search engines. Alta Vista, people thought it was pretty good. They said it was really good, but it wasn't great. It wasn't at Google's level. So in the world we live in today, with new technology always coming, new ideas always coming, new competition right around the corner, you not only have to be great from the start, you have to be the very best in your industry, but you have to maintain that greatness. You have to always be focused on everything you do in being great. Now, great isn't just that you have the best product in the world. Great has many things. The quality of the product, what the product is able to do for customers, the features it has, the price it has, right? Is it great for the price? If you have if your product is a great deal, people will buy it, even if it's not the best product. Other people may prefer to buy the product that has the most features, does the most for them, gets the best reviews. There are different ways to be great, but no matter what you are in the world, you must be great because otherwise you're just going to get lost in the crowd. Copy competitors. Should you copy competitors? I'm a big one. I always say innovate, innovate, innovate. You have to do something unique. You have to do something different. But I am not saying don't copy competitors. Yes, you should copy competitors. Always copy your competitors. Honestly, your competitors are out there. If they have a great idea, you should use it. Why wouldn't you? It's not enough. Being different isn't about copying competitors. Every great company is always monitoring their competitors, looking at everything their competitors do. You should be out there. You should know your competitors as well as you know your own product. You should follow everything they do. You should have your team always going to your competitors, trying out what they're doing, seeing what mistakes they're making so you can fix and improve upon those, and what things they do really, really well, and borrowing those, using those, incorporating those features into your products. That's how you remain competitive. That's how you stay at the top of the game. But the one thing you need, in addition to copying competitors, you need everything they have, at least as good as they have it. But you need one area that you excel, that makes you different, which you are so much better than everybody else, that it gives customers a reason to come to you and stay with you. So that you don't have to innovate across everything. You can't. For most products and services out there, there are too many areas to innovate on. But you need to keep up with your competitors in those areas and figure out that one thing that people are going to come to you for. Why do they come to you? And in that area, you do have to innovate. So yes, copy competitors all the time while innovating in the area that can add the most value to the customers you're targeting. Value over money. The really smart startups that I work with and that I see in the industry always focus on providing value to their customer over making money today. You can look at companies that grow really fast, and these companies tend to be laser focused on the value they create. Their whole mission is about creating value for the customer, as much value as possible, because they realize the more value they create for their customer, the more profits they will make in the long term. Now, in the short term, when you prioritize what the customer needs over what you need to make money, it can seem wrong because you can actually lose money. Remember companies like Amazon. Amazon, at the beginning, they lost money. And it wasn't a short time that they lost money. They lost money for years and years and years. People thought it would never end. When is Amazon going to make a profit? But Jeff Bezos, he's a genius. And he made it his number one priority from day one: create value for the customer. Whatever we do, we have to be focused on what the customer needs, not what we need, not what I think I need as the CEO of a company. Yes, we need money, but we can put off that money if we are creating enough value for the customer. Because when you create what I call extreme value for a customer, they get hooked on you. They get locked in. They won't go anywhere else. And that's when you win. That's when you can really start monetizing those customers. So from day one, Amazon said, we're going to do things differently. All of our competitors out there in the early days of e-commerce, all the competitors, they made it really hard to return products, either because they just didn't know how to make it easy, or else in a lot of cases, because they simply didn't want people to return products. Because when people returned a product that they had they lost money. They lost revenue. So what they did was they would hide they make it really difficult to find how to return products, and then they would make it an onerous process, and it would cost them money. And customers, they didn't like it, so they didn't want to return products. Amazon said, we're doing the opposite. We're going to make it super easy to return products. Even if it costs us money, even if it hits our bottom line, we're going to make it as easy as possible for customers to return products. And they did that. They made it super easy. So it was brain dead simple. If you wanted to return something, you could return it. Amazon was very open about this. What it did was, we would buy products, like me in the early days of the internet and e-commerce. When I would go shopping to buy products, I would always go to Amazon because I knew if I didn't like the product, I could return it. I would also be more comfortable buying more products, taking chances on new products, because I know if I got them and I changed my mind or I didn't like them, Amazon would make it easy to return them. So this ended up costing Amazon a lot of money at first, but over time, I stuck with Amazon. And we can see today, Amazon is making a huge amount of money through this policy. But they didn't stop there. They looked at everything they did and thought about customer first. How do we put the customer ahead of our own interests? Because we know in the long run, that's what we're here for. Businesses are built on serving customers. So they started reducing shipping time. They knew this cost a lot of money, right? To contract the shipping time, they had to invest in a lot of money, automating things, robots, all these upfront costs. But at the end of the day, Amazon today is super efficient. I want a product. A lot of products, if I'm a Prime member, I will get them for sure in 2 days. A lot of times they come the very next day. It's absolutely amazing. And I don't have to pay extra. This is why people stick with Amazon. It turned out to be a huge competitive edge. And then they start offering freebies. You get free music. You get free videos. Once you subscribe to Amazon, once you become an Amazon Prime customer, they are giving you all the continual stream of benefits for you. This basically locks in their customers. It is the fundamental thing that made Amazon so successful and so big compared to all of their rivals. You look at other companies in the Valley and they've done similar things. Google always put the interest of the customer first. You know, in the early days of Google, they used to have flashy ads on the website. They were thinking about it, actually. You know, and Larry Page looked at these ads that were all flashy and he says, I don't want those on the site. That distracts users from their main purpose. Their main purpose is to search for something. We should make the ads integrated into the site. They shouldn't jump out at you. You should see it's an advertisement, but it should look like other search results. So it's just text. It's not flashing. It's not, there are no graphics. It feels like part of the site, and that the search results are actually useful to people. Even the ad results. When you type on something, you're looking for pillows, the fluffiest pillow. You'll see a lot of reviews of different pillows from various sites, but you'll also see advertisements for pillows, fluffy pillows. These ads are actually information for you. They're actually useful. That was a decision Google made early on, and they've carried it through all their products. When there's a choice between making short-term profits, like getting more money from ads, or saving money and providing value to the customer, they always choose the value over the money. Don't fall in love. This is something that I tell all the entrepreneurs I work with. Please, when you're doing a startup, don't fall in love. What do I mean by this? Am I telling them don't have a boyfriend? Don't have a girlfriend? Just focus on your business? Focus? No. I think it's fine to have a boyfriend, a girlfriend, a husband, a wife, whatever you want. Love is good. You need balance. You need relationships. You shouldn't put everything on hold. That's not what I'm saying. When I say don't fall in love, I mean don't fall in love with your product. Too many entrepreneurs I work with, when I talk to them, they love their product. They're infatuated. Their product is the greatest thing on earth. I'm happy that they have passion for their product. That's important. But honestly, don't fall in love. You know why? Because love is blind. I'm sure you've heard that and been in situations where one of your friends falls in love. They're infatuated and they fall in love with somebody who isn't right for them. And you can see it and you're like, this person isn't right for you. Everybody is telling this friend, it's a mismatch, but they don't want to hear it. They filter out everything. They are in love. The same thing happens with a product. They've done many studies on this. People who end up working on something, they end up building something, they fall in love with it. They don't see what it really is. They don't see the flaws. And when other people point out the flaws, because they're so in love with it, they're like, no, it's fine. My product's fine. No, those people, they just don't get it. They don't get the product. So forget about them. This is a real problem because your product will never take off if you love it. It doesn't matter how much you love your product. It's not going to make customers love it. What you have to do is make sure that you don't love your product, that your customer loves it. And the only way to build a product that your customer loves is to listen to your customer, to listen intently when they criticize your product, when they tell you they don't really need it, when they tell you things that they want change. You need to hear that, and you need to hear it clearly. And in order to do that, I like to say, you can't love your product. Your product is just a way of making your customer happy. So don't love your product. Love your customer. Love everything. And then you, by loving your customer, you'll want to make them happy, and you'll want to make them fall in love with your product. So it's a love triangle, but a different type of triangle. You have to love your customer loves your product, and then you will have a company that is very successful. It's a roller coaster ride. Whenever you're doing a startup, don't delude yourself. It's not going to be smooth. Doing a startup is like hopping on a roller coaster. You're going to go through huge swings, up and down and all around, loop-de-loops. It's going to throw you every which way you can imagine. So you have to be prepared when you enter the driver's seat of a startup that you are going on a wild ride that is going to be full of ups and downs, great heights of elation, followed by days of depression. This is normal. It's not abnormal. This is the This is standard. Like when I was doing my startups, my 3 different venture funded startups, I will tell you, one week we were on top of the world. Everything was going great. The next week, an employee would quit or something, or a deal would fall through, and it was a disaster. In order to really make progress in a startup and to enjoy the process, you have to mentally, ahead of time, prepare yourself for this type of environment, for a world where you cannot predict day to day what will happen. Because if you expect it to just be normal, like any job, you're really in for a surprise, and probably not a pleasant surprise. So whenever I do a startup now, I'm just like, I don't care what they throw at me. I don't care what happens. I'm not going to get too worked up about it. I know that I could be on top of the world today and on the bottom tomorrow. Whether I'm on top or bottom, I'm going to try to feel like it's the same. It really doesn't matter. All I care about is that over the long haul, I'm moving forward. I'm moving towards some goal. And along the way, all the crazy turns and everything else along the way, that's fine. We can go off, we can fail, we can do this, we can achieve that. It's all fine as long as I am enjoying the ride of my life. So remember, when you're doing a startup, prepare yourself both physically and mentally for a roller coaster ride. Otherwise, you may just get sick and throw up all over yourself, and you don't want that. Know yourself. If you're getting on the startup ride and you're going on this crazy roller coaster with all the ups and downs that it entails, it's really important to know yourself. I work with a lot of startup founders, and I can see them. I can see the pain, the suffering, everything they're going through. And I will tell you, some of them were born to be entrepreneurs, but other ones of them were never cut out to be an entrepreneur. I could see they would be so perfect and so happy if they were in a different role, if they were working in a large, stable corporation, if they had a job in a research lab. These people, many of them, would be great even as a co-founder, supporting the chairman and CEO. But to be in the chairman and CEO role, if you don't have it in you, what it really takes, the leadership ability, the stamina, everything else that is required of the CEO, then maybe you should consider switching. Just because you're founding a startup and you start as the CEO doesn't mean you have to continue to be the CEO. I know many really successful startup founders in Silicon Valley that began as a CEO and then they moved into another role because they thought somebody else could do this better. Either they still had a lot to learn. At Google, Larry Page and Sergey Brin are the founders, but they stepped aside because they knew they weren't ready to be the CEO, neither of them. And that was an incredible decision. That's what made Google what it is today, that initial decision. Over and over again, they were smart enough and lucky enough to really know themselves. So if you don't know yourself or you're not being honest with yourself, take a look in the mirror. Spend time. Ask yourself, what are my strengths? Are these the strengths required of a CEO? Do I enjoy this? Am I a person who likes to have stress? I thrive on stress. I thrive on uncertainty. If you don't thrive on stress and uncertainty, maybe a startup isn't the best place for you, especially the leadership role, because it is like constant stress, constant uncertainty. Some people love it. They embrace it. It's just perfect for them. And other people, it's a torture. It's really a torture. And why put yourself through a torture? Being successful in life is not about being like everybody else. You don't have to be the next Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Jack Ma to be successful. You could be an amazing doctor and be successful, an amazing lawyer, amazing corporate executive. There are a million different things you could do, an artist that you may be perfectly cut out to do. You should figure that out, because until you figure it out, until you know what you love to do, what's natural for you, where you really excel at, where you can really add value to other people, then you won't be successful. And some people don't want to build a big venture-funded business. It's really not what they're about. They want to do small projects that help their community, help other things. Think about these things up front, and it will help you in making the right decision in the long run. When should you quit? This is a question I get asked quite often. Entrepreneurs will come up to me and they say, Steve, when should I quit? When? You know what I tell them? I tell them the same thing every time. When an entrepreneur comes up and asks me when they should quit, I say, honestly, quit today. Quit right now. Walk away from whatever you're doing. Stop doing it. Quit. Am I mean? Am I insensitive? They put their life into this company. No, I'm not mean. I'm giving them the advice they need to hear. Because if they are asking me if they should quit, it means they are asking for permission to quit. They already know the answer. They know the business isn't working. Otherwise, they wouldn't ask me. Like if they didn't know there's something fundamentally broken about their company, they would never come to me asking if they should quit. People, entrepreneurs, usually they don't quit too early. They quit too late because they're passionate. Nobody wants to fail. They love this idea. It's their baby. The company is their baby. They never, ever want to quit. So by the time they're coming to me, it's far beyond the time that they should be quitting. Now, when I say, should you quit? I don't mean, should you quit everything you do? I'm not a quitter. I mean, you should stop what you're doing and then try something else. Quit what you're doing because whatever you're doing, it isn't working. It doesn't mean give up on your business, but it definitely means quit whatever you're doing, refocus, and try something very different. If you don't do that, your chances of success are probably nil because you already tried this. You know, most of us try something. It's like we work on it and work on it and work on it. And it's only when we can't think of anything else to do that we even consider quitting. So by that time, you're ready to give this up and go on. Even if it means closing down your company because it doesn't work. Close down your company. But if you're a real entrepreneur, start a new one. Life doesn't end when you quit. It never ends. Now, one of the things I can tell you, if you are thinking, should I quit or not? Let me give you a little rule of thumb. If doing your startup feels like you're Sisyphus, remember the myth of Sisyphus, who had to roll the boulder up the hill. And every time he got to the top of the hill, the boulder would roll back down again. That was his punishment. So he had to do it over and over and over endlessly. If that feels like your startup, if you've been doing that for months and months and months, and it's the same thing, you're not making progress, it is time to quit. You should quit. When you really figure it out, when a startup really works, you don't ask those questions. In fact, you're chasing after that boulder. You can't keep up. There's so much you need to do. You can't run fast enough. That's what a startup that's working feels like. It feels like it's pulling you along. It's not you're pushing it to get going. So if you're pushing for 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, and nothing is happening, you should quit. Never stop dreaming. I don't care what adversities you face. If your company failed, if everything fell apart, if your marriage failed, please don't stop dreaming. Because what dreams are is what we are. It's our soul. The soul of humanity is dreams. We all live not just to survive, but we live to do something more, something great, to contribute something to the world. And as long as you can dream, you have the potential of doing that. And there's nobody who can tell you you can't but yourself. Because if you believe you can, there will be another opportunity. You will create that opportunity to do something. I will tell you, in my own life, I've had failures. I've had points where I was so low, I thought I just can't do this again. I can't go through it again. But you know what? Sure enough, I just allowed myself to dream. And some new dream came up and replaced my old dream. And then I was on a new journey. And I wouldn't be where I am today. I wouldn't be successful if I hadn't followed my dreams. My whole career, I've always did what I dreamed of doing. I never wanted to get to the end of my life and say, oh, I could have done that, but I was afraid to dream. I didn't allow myself. I didn't want to suffer. I thought the dream is what matters. You know, human beings, we don't live in a reality. We create reality. The reality you and I live in is the reality in our head. And that is as much our dreams as anything else out there. So anything people are telling you is only partially true. You can change that by changing how you look at the world, what opportunities you see. If you dream, a dreamer, an entrepreneur sees opportunities other people don't because they allow themselves to imagine a future that other people can't see. This is the essence of being an entrepreneur. And this is what I want you to understand more than anything. It's your dreams that allow you to do great things. And if you cut off your dreams, if you say, I'm only going to be realistic now, I'm only going to be practical now. I'm not going to take any big chances. These things will start to kill your dreams. They'll start to limit them, shrink them down. I don't want you to do that. No matter what you do in your life, please never stop dreaming, and you will be successful. I tell you, you will be successful. You may not be running a big company. It doesn't matter, honestly. You can do great work and you can have so many dreams. You could take the skills you have and put them to so many things. If in your community, you wind up starting a nonprofit and you transform the lives of those people around you, that's a magnificent thing, right? A big corporate CEO can't do that. They're too busy running their company. Only maybe you could do that. There's probably a dream out there right now that is just right for you. You may have to change your dream. It might not be what you thought it would be, but it can be something even better and more fulfilling and something maybe only you can give the world. I hope you enjoyed the talk. If you liked it, you can come to founderspace.com. You can check out our latest events, contact us, and see my latest books, Make Elephants Fly, Surviving a Startup, and The 5 Forces. You can also find me on all the major social networks. Just search for Founderspace.